I still remember the exact moment when I discovered my parents had given each of my siblings $200,000 while excluding me completely. The initial confusion quickly turned to a deep sense of betrayal when I realized I was the only one left out, all because I had chosen a different path than what they had mapped out for me. It made me question if their love was conditional dependent on me, following their exact blueprint for my life. If you're watching this right now, let me know where you're from in the comments, and hit that subscribe button. This story about family betrayal and unexpected success might just change how you see your own relationships. I grew up in what many would consider a successful American family. Both my parents were respected professionals in the medical field. My father, William, was a cardiologist at the largest hospital in Boston, and my mother, Patricia, worked as a nursing director at the same institution. They had built their careers through decades of hard work and dedication, and they expected nothing less from their children. My older brother, Brian, was 32, a pediatrician who had followed directly in our father's footsteps. He had always been the golden child, excelling in science from an early age, and never questioning the path laid out for him. My sister Amanda was 30, a pharmacist who had graduated at the top of her class. She managed a successful pharmacy inside a prestigious hospital and was considered the perfect daughter who made all the right choices. Then there was me, Edgar, the youngest at 28. From my earliest memories, there was an enormous pressure to excel academically, especially in science and mathematics. My parents had our futures planned before we could even spell stethoscope. They would proudly introduce us at family gatherings. This is Brian, he will be a surgeon. This is Amanda, she will be a pharmacist. And this is Edgar, he will be a medical researcher. Our paths were predetermined with no room for deviation. While I did well in my science classes, my true passion lay elsewhere. I was fascinated by computers and programming. By age 12, I had taught myself several programming languages and had built small applications that actually solved real problems. I created a program that helped my mother organize her nursing schedules more efficiently, but rather than seeing the value in this, she called it a cute hobby and reminded me not to let it distract from my real studies. High school was when the tension began to build. While I maintained excellent grades across all subjects, I spent most of my free time in the computer lab. The technology teacher, Mr. Thompson, recognized my talent and encouraged me to pursue it further. He would stay late after school to give me advanced projects and introduce me to concepts beyond the regular curriculum. "Edgar, you have a natural talent for this," he told me once. "The way you think about problems and create solutions is something special. You could really make an impact in this field." His words stuck with me, and for the first time I began to consider a future different from what my parents had planned. When college application season arrived, I applied to top programs in both medicine and computer science, keeping my options open. The acceptance letters came, and I had choices to make. Massachusetts Institute of Technology offered me a substantial scholarship for their computer science program. When I shared this news with my parents at dinner, expecting at least some level of pride, I was met with disappointed stares. "That is very nice, Edgar," my father said dismissively, "but Harvard Medical just accepted Brian years ago without any scholarship needed. We can certainly afford your medical school. There is no need to settle for a computer degree." "It is not settling, Dad," I argued. "MIT is one of the best schools in the world for what I want to do." "And what exactly is that?" my mother asked, her voice tinged with disapproval. "Play with computers all day." "How will that help people? How will that provide you a respectable position in society?" These arguments became a regular feature of our family dinners. While Brian and Amanda sat silently, occasionally giving me sympathetic glances, my parents launched into lectures about responsibility, family tradition, and wasting potential. Despite their disapproval, I made my decision. I would attend MIT and pursue my passion for computer science. The day I announced this to my family was the first time I saw genuine disappointment in my father's eyes. "You are making a mistake," he said simply. "One day you will regret not listening to those who know better." Throughout my college years, I tried to maintain a good relationship with my family despite the tension. I came home for holidays, attended family functions, and even tried to share my accomplishments with them. I had developed sophisticated algorithms, won coding competitions, and even had a paper published in a respected journal during my sophomore year. But these achievements were always met with lukewarm acknowledgement, quickly overshadowed by Brian's medical conference presentations or Amanda's promotion at the hospital. At one particularly uncomfortable Thanksgiving dinner, my aunt asked about my studies. "Edgar is doing very well in his computer courses," my mother said with a tight smile before quickly changing the subject. "But did you hear that Brian just got accepted into the pediatric residency program at Massachusetts General?" Despite this constant dismissal, I excelled at MIT. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in computer science, with a focus on artificial intelligence and healthcare applications. I thought perhaps this specific focus might finally bridge the gap between my passion and my family's medical world. I was wrong. At my graduation party, which my parents reluctantly hosted, my father raised a toast to Edgar, who has completed his computer studies. "May this be a stepping stone to a real profession in the future." The room fell awkwardly silent. I smiled through the pain and thanked them for the party. A week later, I accepted a position at a promising healthcare technology startup in Boston, hoping to prove that my chosen path had value and purpose. 6 months after I started my new job, my mother called to invite me to a special family dinner. "Your father and I have an important announcement to make," she said, her voice unusually cheerful. "We want all 3 of you to be there on Saturday. I am making your favorite lasagna." I felt a surge of hope. Perhaps they had finally come to accept my career choice. Maybe they had seen some article about healthcare technology and realized the impact it could have. For the first time in years, I drove to my parents' suburban home with a sense of optimism. The house looked the same as always, perfectly maintained with a manicured lawn and freshly painted shutters. Inside, my mother had gone all out with the dinner preparations. The dining room table was set with the good china crystal glasses and polished silver cutlery, usually reserved for major holidays and celebrations. Brian and Amanda were already there when I arrived, both looking slightly nervous but excited. We exchanged pleasantries and caught up on recent events while our parents finished preparing dinner. The conversation flowed more easily than it had in years, and I felt a warmth I had missed. Once we were all seated and had begun eating, my father cleared his throat and set down his fork. "Your mother and I have been planning something special for quite some time," he announced, looking proudly around the table. "We have always wanted to help our children get established in life, to give you a solid foundation for your futures." My mother smiled and squeezed his hand. "We have been saving for many years, and we feel now is the right time to help each of you take the next step in your lives and careers." My heart raced with anticipation. This was the moment they would finally show they believed in me too. "Brian," my father continued, turning to my brother, "we know you have been looking to buy a house now that you have finished your residency. Your mother and I would like to give you $200,000 as a down payment to help you purchase a home worthy of a doctor of your standing." Brian's eyes widened. "Dad, Mom, that is incredibly generous. I do not know what to say." "You do not need to say anything," my mother replied warmly. "You have worked hard and made us proud. You deserve this." My father then turned to my sister. "Amanda, we know you have been dreaming of opening your own pharmacy someday. We would like to give you $200,000 as seed money to help you establish your own business when you are ready." Amanda gasped and put her hand over her mouth. "Really? That would be amazing." "I have already been looking at locations and making plans." "We know," my father nodded, "and we fully support your entrepreneurial spirit in the proper medical field." There was a moment of silence, and I waited for my father to turn to me, but instead He raised his glass. To our children and their bright futures in medicine, everyone else raised their glasses, but I sat frozen. Surely they had not forgotten me. I waited a few more awkward moments before finding my voice. "And what about me?" I asked quietly. The table fell silent. My parents exchanged a glance, and my father cleared his throat again. "Edgar," he began, his tone noticeably different. "Your mother and I have given this a lot of thought. We have decided that we will invest in real careers, not computer hobbies." I felt as if I had been slapped. "A real career? I have a real career. I work for one of the most innovative healthcare technology companies in Boston." "Playing with websites is not a real career," my mother interjected. "If you were to reconsider your choices and apply to medical school, we would be happy to provide you with the same support we are giving your siblings." I looked at Brian and Amanda, hoping they might speak up for me, but they both stared at their plates, uncomfortable but silent. "So this is conditional," I stated, struggling to keep my voice steady. $200,000 for each of them, but nothing for me unless I abandon the career I love and do what you want instead. "We are simply investing wisely," my father replied stiffly. "When you demonstrate the same level of commitment to a proper profession as your brother and sister, you will receive the same support." I pushed back my chair and stood up. "I have demonstrated commitment. I graduated top of my class from one of the best computer science programs in the world. I work incredibly hard developing technology that will actually improve healthcare outcomes. But none of that matters because it does not fit your narrow definition of success." "Do not be dramatic, Edgar," my mother sighed. "We are simply trying to guide you toward a better path." "No, you are trying to control me," I replied, my voice finally breaking. "And you are showing me exactly how conditional your support really island." I looked around at my family one last time. "Congratulations, Brian and Amanda. Enjoy your gifts. I hope they are worth the price." With that, I walked out, ignoring my mother's calls to come back and discuss this rationally. There was nothing rational about what had just happened. I had been explicitly told that I was worth less than my siblings because I had chosen to follow my own path. The days that followed were a blur of hurt and anger. I tried calling both Brian and Amanda, hoping they might understand how unfair this situation was. Brian's response was particularly painful. "Look, Edgar, I understand you are upset, but Mom and Dad have always been clear about what they value. Maybe this is a sign you should reconsider your choices." Amanda at least seemed somewhat uncomfortable with the situation. "I do feel bad about how things played out," she admitted. "But you know how Mom and Dad are about medicine. They just do not understand your computer stuff." "They have never tried to understand," I replied, "and neither have you or Brian." The final straw came a week later when my father called me. I had hoped he might apologize, or at least acknowledge how hurtful their actions had been. Instead, he offered what he considered a compromise. "Your mother and I have discussed it further," he said. "We would be willing to pay for your medical school applications and tuition if you start this fall. You could still use your computer skills in medical research if you really want to." That was the moment I decided I needed a clean break. "No, thank you," I said calmly. "I do not want your money if it comes with strings attached. In fact, I think it is best if we take some time apart. I need to focus on my career and my life without your constant disapproval." Before he could respond, I ended the call. Then I made one of the hardest decisions of my life. I would cut contact with my family and focus entirely on building my future on my own terms. The months following that painful family dinner were some of the most focused and productive of my life. Without the constant weight of my family's disapproval, I threw myself completely into my work at the healthcare technology startup. I arrived early, stayed late, and volunteered for every challenging project that came along. Rather than wasting energy trying to win approval I would never get, I channeled all that determination into proving to myself that I had made the right choice. My dedication did not go unnoticed. 6 months into my time at the company, I was assigned to work directly with James Turner, the Chief Technology Officer, and a founding member of the startup. James was a brilliant software architect with a background in both technology and healthcare administration. Unlike my parents, he saw the immense potential in combining these worlds. The problem with healthcare technology, James told me during our first one-on-one meeting, is that it is often designed by people who understand either healthcare or technology, but rarely both. You have a unique perspective that bridges that gap. Working closely with James transformed my professional life. He became the mentor I had always wanted, someone who recognized my talents and challenged me to develop them further. He assigned me to increasingly complex projects and included me in high-level meetings where I could observe the business side of the industry. A turning point came when our company landed a contract to develop a patient management system for a network of hospitals in New England. James put me in charge of a key component, developing an algorithm to optimize patient scheduling and resource allocation. "This is your chance to shine," he told me. "Show them what technology can really do for healthcare." I worked tirelessly on the project, drawing on everything I had learned. The irony was not lost on me that I was using my computer hobby to solve real problems in the medical world my parents revered so much. The system I helped develop reduced patient wait times by 35% and improved resource utilization across the hospital network. The success of this project earned me a substantial promotion and bonus, as well as recognition across the company. 2 years into my career, I had saved enough money to rent a comfortable apartment in Cambridge and was steadily building my financial independence. I had also built a network of friends and colleagues who appreciated me for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. For the first time in my life, I felt truly validated and accepted. James and I continued to work closely together, and as we did, we often discussed ideas for innovative healthcare technologies that the constraints of our company would not allow us to pursue. During one late-night coding session fueled by pizza and energy drinks, James looked at me thoughtfully. "You know we could do this on our own," he said. "Start something from scratch, build it exactly how we think it should be built." The idea of starting a company was both thrilling and terrifying. I had just turned 30 and had only been in the industry for 3 years. But James believed in me, and gradually I began to believe it might be possible. 6 months later, we took the leap. We left our jobs and founded MedTech Solutions, a company focused on developing artificial intelligence systems for healthcare diagnostics and management. James had connections and experience, while I brought technical innovation and a fresh perspective. We worked out of his basement at first, pouring every dollar we had into development. The first year was brutally difficult. We worked 18-hour days, survived on ramen noodles and coffee, and faced rejection from countless investors who did not share our vision. There were nights I lay awake, wondering if I had made another mistake, if my parents had been right all along. But we persevered. Our breakthrough came when we developed an AI diagnostic assistant that could analyze patient symptoms and medical history to help doctors identify rare conditions that might otherwise be missed. We piloted the system with a small community hospital that could not afford specialists in every field, and the results were impressive enough to attract attention. Venture capital funding followed, allowing us to move into proper offices and hire a team of developers and healthcare specialists. 3 years after founding MedTech Solutions, we were profitable and growing rapidly. Our technologies were being implemented in hospitals across the country, and medical journals were publishing papers about the impact of our systems on patient outcomes. The ultimate validation came when a major healthcare industry magazine featured me on their cover as one of the top 30 innovators under 40. The article detailed how our company was revolutionizing patient care through technology. I bought a house in a nice Boston suburb at 33, paying cash for the down payment without a penny from my parents. But success was not just about financial security or professional recognition. I found purpose in what we were building. Our systems were helping doctors diagnose conditions more accurately, reducing medical errors, and ultimately saving lives. In many ways, I was fulfilling my parents' desire for me to help people through medicine, just not in the way they had envisioned. As medtech solutions continued to grow, I decided to give back in a meaningful way. I established a scholarship fund for talented students from underprivileged backgrounds who wanted to pursue careers in healthcare technology. The Edgar Watson Scholarship would cover full tuition and expenses for 5 students each year with no strings attached, other than a passion for using technology to improve healthcare. I thought about my family, occasionally wondering how they were doing and if they ever regretted their ultimatum. But I had built a new life surrounded by people who respected my choices and valued my contributions. If my parents could not appreciate the man I had become, that was their loss, not mine. 5 years passed without any contact from my family. In that time, MedTech Solutions had grown from a startup in James's basement to a company valued at over $100 million with offices in 3 cities. We employed over 200 people, and our healthcare AI systems were used in hundreds of hospitals nationwide. I had just finished a meeting with our development team when my assistant informed me that someone named Amanda Watson was calling and insisted it was a personal emergency. My heart raced as I picked up the phone, wondering what could have happened after all these years of silence. Edgar. My sister's voice sounded smaller than I remembered, hesitant and strained. I know it has been a long time, and I would not blame you if you hung up right now, but please, I need to talk to you. Amanda? I replied, keeping my voice neutral. This is unexpected. Is everyone okay? There was a pause, and I could hear her taking a deep breath. Not really, no. Everything has fallen apart, and I did not know who else to turn to. She explained that her pharmacy venture had failed spectacularly within 2 years. Despite the $200,000 startup from our parents, she had made a series of poor business decisions and faced increasingly tough competition from large pharmacy chains. She had been forced to close down, losing not only her investment, but also accumulating substantial debt. I was never taught how to run a business, she admitted. Mom and Dad just assumed, because I was good at pharmacy, I would be good at owning a pharmacy. They never considered I might need other skills. Brian's situation was even worse. He had become involved in a medical malpractice lawsuit after a child under his care suffered serious complications due to a misdiagnosis. The hospital settled the case, but Brian's reputation was damaged and he lost his position. The legal fees and settlement contributions had drained his savings, including the house down payment our parents had given him. He has been working locum tenens positions at rural clinics, just trying to rebuild his career, Amanda explained. The house he bought with Mom and Dad's money is in foreclosure. But the most surprising part of Amanda's call concerned our parents. They had used most of their retirement savings to help Brian and Amanda after their respective crises. They had paid off Amanda's business debts and covered Brian's legal expenses, depleting the nest egg they had carefully built over decades. Dad had to postpone retirement. Amanda continued, her voice cracking. He is 68 and still working full shifts at the hospital because they cannot afford to live on just their remaining savings and Social Security. Mom had to go back to work part-time too. I sat in silence processing this information. Part of me felt a vindictive satisfaction, knowing that the Golden children had failed despite all the advantages and that my parents' careful plans had unraveled. But another part of me still cared about them despite everything. Why are you telling me this now, Amanda? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Because we need help, she admitted. And because we were wrong. All of us. We watched you succeed completely on your own while we failed with every advantage. Mom and Dad have finally realized what they did to you was terrible. They talk about it all the time, how they wish they could take it back. They could have called me themselves, I pointed out. They are too ashamed, she replied. They saw the magazine covers, the news articles about your company. They know exactly how successful you have become. They are afraid you hate them, and honestly, you would have every right to. She asked if I would meet her for dinner to talk more. After some consideration, I agreed. Whatever resentment I still carried, I at least wanted to hear what she had to say face to face. We met at a quiet restaurant in Boston the following evening. Amanda looked tired and much older than her 35 years. The confident, perfect daughter had been replaced by someone humbled by failure and regret. "I should have stood up for you that night," she said, after we had ordered. "I knew what they were doing was wrong, but I was so afraid of losing their approval that I stayed silent. I have regretted it every day since." She explained that both she and Brian had accepted the money partly out of fear. We were trapped in these lives our parents designed. I never actually wanted to own a pharmacy. I just did not know how to disappoint them. Brian was the same way. He became a doctor because it was expected, not because it was his passion. "What do you want from me, Amanda?" I asked directly. Initially, financial help, she admitted honestly. "But being here now seeing you, I realize what I really want is my brother back. I want a chance to apologize and make things right. Mom and Dad want that too, even if they are too proud to say it first." A week later, I agreed to meet with my entire family at my parents' house. As I pulled into the driveway of the home where I grew up, I noticed how much smaller and older it looked now. The immaculate lawn was overgrown in places, the paint was peeling slightly around the windows, and my father's prized rose bushes had not been properly pruned. Amanda answered the door and led me inside. The house felt different, less intimidating than in my memories. In the living room, my parents sat side by side on the sofa, and Brian stood awkwardly by the fireplace. The moment my parents saw me, they both stood up, uncertainty written across their faces. My father had aged considerably. His once dark hair was now completely gray, and his posture had a slight stoop that had not been there 5 years ago. My mother looked tired with new lines around her eyes and mouth. For the first time in my life, they did not look like the all-powerful authorities who had controlled my world. They looked like what they were, aging parents who had made mistakes. "Edgar," my father, said, his voice rougher than I remembered. "Thank you for coming. We did not expect you would." Before I could respond, my mother stepped forward and did something she had rarely done in my adult life. She hugged me. I stood stiffly at first, then gradually returned the embrace. "We were wrong," she said simply, as she pulled away, tears in her eyes. "So terribly wrong." We moved to the dining room, where a simple meal had been prepared, nothing like the elaborate dinner of 5 years ago. Over food, my family took turns speaking. Brian apologized for his silence and complicity. He explained how his own life had unraveled, despite following the prescribed path. "I never wanted to be a pediatrician," he admitted. "I wanted to be an architect, but I never had the courage to say it. I envied your strength in choosing your own path." My father spoke last clearly, struggling with his pride even now. "I thought I knew what was best for all of you," he said slowly. "I was raised to believe that certain professions had value and others did not. I could not see beyond my own limited experience." He paused, looking directly at me. "But you proved me wrong. You have built something remarkable, something that helps people in ways I never imagined possible." The conversation eventually turned to their financial situation. My parents had spent nearly all their retirement savings helping Brian and Amanda. The house had a reverse mortgage now, and my father would need to work at least 3 more years to rebuild enough savings to retire with any security. "We are not asking for your help," my father said, his pride still evident. "After what we did, we have no right to ask anything of you. We just wanted you to know that we recognize our mistakes and are truly sorry for the pain we caused." I sat in silence for a moment, considering everything I had heard. The hurt and rejection I had felt that night 5 years ago had not disappeared, but it had changed. Looking at my family now, humbled and regretful, I realized I had a choice to make. I could walk away and leave them to face the consequences of their actions, or I could find a way forward that honored both my success and our shared history. I am not going to pretend that what happened did not hurt me deeply, I finally said. You made me feel worthless because I chose a different path. You decided I deserved nothing, while my siblings deserved everything. They nodded, accepting the truth of my words. But I also know what it is like to fail and need help, I continued. The difference is, I never had anyone to turn to. I had to figure it out on my own. I took a deep breath and made my decision. I will help, but with conditions. This is not a gift. It is an investment in change. I outlined my terms. I would pay off the reverse mortgage on their house and help Brian navigate his legal and career challenges. In return, I wanted my parents to become actively involved in my scholarship foundation, helping to identify and mentor students who, like me, might take unconventional paths in healthcare. Their medical expertise, combined with an appreciation for diverse approaches, would be genuinely valuable. For Brian and Amanda, I offered something unexpected: jobs at MedTech Solutions. Brian's medical knowledge could help us refine our diagnostic systems, while Amanda's pharmaceutical expertise could be invaluable for our medication management platform. They would need to earn their positions starting at appropriate entry levels and proving their value, but they would have the opportunity. This is not about money, I explained. It is about building something better than what we had before. A family based on mutual respect rather than conditional approval. My mother was openly crying now, and even my father's eyes were moist. We do not deserve this chance, he said quietly. Maybe not, I agreed, but I am not offering it because you deserve it. I am offering it because I want to be better than the example I was given. I want to help because I can, not because of what I might get in return. Over the following months, we began the slow process of rebuilding our relationships. It was not always easy or comfortable. Years of resentment and hurt feelings do not disappear overnight. There were arguments and setbacks, moments when old patterns threatened to reemerge. But gradually, things changed. My parents became enthusiastic advocates for the scholarship program, often meeting with recipients to share their medical expertise while respecting the students' technological interests. My father, in particular, seemed transformed by meeting young people with diverse passions and watching them thrive. Brian and Amanda struggled initially in their new roles, but found their footing as they discovered how their medical knowledge could enhance our technological solutions. For perhaps the first time, they were working in roles they had chosen rather than ones assigned to them. The most profound change was in my relationship with my parents. We would never have the typical parent-child bond that might have developed under different circumstances, but we found a new relationship based on adult mutual respect. My father, who had once dismissed my computer hobby, now proudly told his colleagues about the healthcare innovations his son was developing. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized that the painful rejection I experienced had ultimately freed me to become the person I was meant to be. Without that push to prove myself, without the need to succeed entirely on my own terms, I might never have found the determination to build something truly meaningful. Sometimes the family we are given is not perfect, but the lessons they teach us, even through their mistakes, can shape who we become in unexpected ways. The conditional love that once hurt me so deeply had ultimately led me to discover my own strength and define success on my own terms. If you have experienced rejection from those who should have supported you, I hope my story shows you that it does not define your worth or limit your potential. Sometimes the people who believe in you the least create the perfect conditions for you to prove exactly what you are capable of. What painful experience has shaped who you are today? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family challenges and finding success on your own terms. Thank you for listening, and remember that true success comes from following your authentic path, not someone else's blueprint for your life.